Britain in the 1980s was a decade of change, new money, new ambitions, and for millions of ordinary British families, the very real hope that they could finally afford a car that felt modern, reliable, and worth the sacrifice it took to buy it. Showrooms were full of promise. Manufacturers made bold claims, and British families, trusting those claims, signed the paperwork and drove home with high hopes. For some, those hopes lasted a week. For others, less, because the 1980s produced some of the most disappointing cars ever sold on British roads. Cars that rusted before their time. Cars that broke down without warning. Cars that made families question every single pound they had spent. Today we are counting down 10 British cars that families deeply regretted buying in the 1980s. And number 1 became a complete nightmare for almost everyone who owned it. Let's count them down. Number 10, Talbot Horizon. 1978 to 1986, Chennault Talbot/Chrysler. We begin with a car that arrived with reasonable ambitions and delivered consistent disappointment. The Talbot Horizon was positioned as a practical, modern family hatchback, something accessible and dependable for everyday British life. A 1.3 or 1.5-liter engine gave adequate performance on paper. In practice, build quality was poor from day one. Electrical gremlins appeared early. Rust attacked the bodywork at a rate that suggested the factory had given very little thought to weather protection. Owners who expected dependable family transport found themselves instead managing a car that needed constant attention and delivered little reward. It promised practicality. It delivered frustration. Number 9, Vauxhall Cavalier Mark II, 1981 to 1988. Vauxhall. This one surprises people. The Cavalier was one of the best-selling cars in Britain throughout the 1980s, and its sales figures suggest broad satisfaction. But volume and satisfaction are not always the same thing. Early Cavalier Mark II models suffered from rust problems that appeared embarrassingly quickly. The 1.3-liter base engine was underpowered for a car of this size and weight. Interior quality felt cheaper than the price tag suggested, with trim that rattled and plastics that cracked ahead of their time. Families who bought the cheaper variants specifically felt shortchanged. They had paid mainstream money for what felt, in daily use, like a budget compromise. Millions bought one. Not all of them would do so again. Number 8, Ford Fiesta Mark I, 1976 to 1983. Ford. The Ford Fiesta was Britain's small car answer to European competition, and it genuinely succeeded in many ways. But early examples that rolled into the 1980s carried problems that Ford had never quite resolved. Rust was the primary complaint. Wheel arches, sills, and floor pans began dissolving at rates that shocked owners who had expected durability from a mainstream Ford product. The 1.0-liter engine strained visibly on motorways, and the gear change felt imprecise and agricultural compared to European rivals of the same era. Families who bought a Fiesta expecting small car simplicity often found themselves spending more on repairs than the car's declining value justified. Number 7, Austin Maestro, 1983 to 1994. Austin Rover. British Leyland promised the Austin Maestro would finally be the car to challenge Ford and Vauxhall directly. A modern hatchback, practical interior space, even a talking dashboard on certain models that announced faults in a synthesized voice. The talking dashboard became a national joke almost immediately. The reliability record undermined everything else the Maestro tried to offer. Electrical systems failed frequently and without obvious pattern. The engine management on fuel-injected versions proved troublesome in service, baffling independent garages attempting repairs. Owners who had bought into the promise of modern British engineering found themselves instead embarrassed by a car that announced its own problems in a robotic voice before breaking down entirely. Not what any family had paid for. Number 6, Lada Riva, 1980 to 1997. Lada. The Lada Riva was never sold on glamour. It was sold on price, and price alone. For British families on the tightest budgets in the early 1980s, the Riva offered basic transport at a cost almost nothing else could match. A simple 1.3-liter engine, rear-wheel drive, and construction borrowed from Soviet-era engineering. The problems revealed themselves quickly. Rust arrived fast and spread faster. The antiquated technology meant fuel consumption was poor by modern standards, and performance was modest even by the era's standards. Families who bought the Riva because they had no other option largely accepted its limitations. Those who expected a genuine car for a bargain price were invariably disappointed. It was cheap, and it felt cheap in almost every way that mattered. Number 5, Austin Montego, 1984 to 1994. Austin Rover. The Austin Montego was supposed to fix everything the Maestro got wrong. A larger, more refined family saloon that would take the fight directly to Ford's Sierra and Vauxhall Cavalier. It didn't. Build quality remained inconsistent. Early Montegos suffered from the same electrical unreliability that had plagued so many Austin Rover products throughout the decade. The diesel variant, which attracted family buyers on the strength of fuel economy promises, proved troublesome in service and delivered fewer miles per gallon than the brochures suggested. Dealers struggled to defend the car against better-built European and Japanese alternatives, arriving in showrooms at comparable prices. For a car positioned as a genuine mainstream competitor, it never quite felt like one. Number 4. Rover 200 Series Mark I. 1984 to 1989. Austin Rover. The Rover 200 arrived as a collaboration with Honda and carried genuine promise. A modern platform, Japanese engineering discipline informing the development process. Smart, clean styling that finally looked contemporary, but Austin Rover's own production quality undermined what Honda had helped create. Build quality varied dramatically between examples, sometimes between cars made on the same day. Trim fit was inconsistent. Electrical reliability remained a persistent concern. Dealers who knew the Honda equivalent understood exactly what the 200 could have been if production had matched the engineering. It was a genuinely good car wearing an unreliable reputation it had partly earned and partly inherited. Families who bought it deserved better. Many of them knew it. Number 3. Triumph Acclaim. 1981 to 1984. Triumph. The Triumph Acclaim deserves a specific kind of sympathy. It was essentially a Honda Ballade built under license in Britain, wearing a Triumph badge on a genuinely reliable Japanese platform. And yet, British Leyland's production of it introduced problems the original Honda never had. Quality control during assembly was inconsistent, introducing fit and finish issues that had no business being present on a car with Honda underpinnings. The Triumph badge attracted buyers expecting British character but delivered an identity crisis instead. Neither Japanese reliability nor authentic British character. When Triumph disappeared as a brand in 1984, the Acclaim went with it, and very few people mourned either departure. A good car made worse by the company that built it. Number 2. Alfa Romeo Arna. 1983 to 1987. Alfa Romeo/Nissan. This one requires explanation. The Arna was built jointly by Alfa Romeo and Nissan, taking the Nissan Cherry body and fitting it with Alfa Romeo's twin-cam engine. It sounded on paper like a clever combination of Italian performance and Japanese reliability. It managed to achieve neither. The Nissan body rusted at catastrophic speed, undermining whatever remained of the car's Italian engineering appeal. The Alfa twin-cam engine, brilliant in other cars, felt out of place in a body that had been designed around entirely different characteristics. British families who had been attracted by Alfa Romeo's reputation found themselves with Nissan build quality, Alfa Romeo complexity, and the worst rust record of almost any car sold in Britain during the decade. The Arna became shorthand for everything that can go wrong when two manufacturers with different goals try to build one car together. Number 1. Morris Ital. 1980 to 1984. British Leyland. And here we are. Number 1. The Morris Ital was not a new car when it launched in 1980. It was essentially a restyled Morris Marina, a car that had already disappointed British families throughout the entire 1970s. British Leyland dressed it with Italian-styled bodywork from Ital design, added some modest improvements, and presented it to British families as something fresh and worth considering. It was not. The fundamental problems of the Marina remained entirely intact underneath the new clothing. Dated engineering, heavy, imprecise steering that had embarrassed the Marina for years, rust that appeared with the same speed and determination as before, build quality that reflected the troubled factories producing it. Families who had avoided the Marina and now bought the Ital, hoping for something better, were let down in every way that mattered. British Leyland had taken an already disliked car, given it a new suit, and expected the British public not to notice. They noticed, and they never forgave it. Thank you for watching Nostalgia Garage. Did your family own one of these cars? Did it let you down? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one. Subscribe for more journeys through Britain's motoring past. We will see you in the next one.